Marhaba, shorba keema or miniature meatball soup on page 168 in my cookbook Classic Lebanese Cuisine. This heartwarming gluten-free soup is perfect for the winter months when it's freezing outside and equally good in the summer. I serve it warm in the winter and at room temperature in the summer. The flavors continue to deliver. This is my mother's favorite soup. When she was a little girl, she was happy when she caught a cold because she knew that my grandmother would make this soup for her. Well, the apple must not have fallen far from the tree because this is one of my favorite soups too. Like so many dishes and recipes in Lebanon and the Middle East, there are several variations of this recipe. This is the one I grew up with. Now, you could add diced carrots, lentils, a bit of potatoes or celery or different seasonings like curry powder or cumin, or leave the meatballs out altogether and prepare it with vegetable broth and make it vegetarian and vegan. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start by preparing the meatballs first. We're going to start with a half a pound of ground beef. This is 80% lean, a third of a cup of minced onion, a quarter cup of parsley that's chopped up, a teaspoon and a half of balsamic, a half a teaspoon of salt, quarter teaspoon pepper, quarter teaspoon allspice, an eighth of cinnamon, and a 16th teaspoon of cloves and nutmeg. Now I'm going to put all of these ingredients into here, mix this up, and start to measure them into tablespoon portions. So I'm going to go ahead and get that started now. Now I've put this in between the paper towel because I want to squeeze all the liquid out, as much of the moisture out from the onion. So we'll go ahead and add our parsley. These are our spices and the balsamic. Now I just love the flavor that the balsamic gives. Now I also use this balsamic. I use it in my kefta. Now kefta is another recipe that that's in the book, and those are like grilled little fingers. So we're just going to mix this thoroughly, and once it's equally combined, I'm going to go ahead and measure these into tablespoon portions, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut each tablespoon in half and roll them into balls, and then we're going to continue to pan fry these. Let's start measuring out the portions for the meatballs. So we're going to put a tablespoon portion. We're just going to go ahead and set these off to the side because we're going to portion all of these first, and then what we're going to do is we're going to cut each tablespoon in half, and each half is going to be one of our meatballs. So we're just going to take each tablespoon, we're going to cut it in half, and we're just going to roll these, and we're going to set them aside, and once we get all of them done, we're going to go ahead and pan fry these. We're going to get about 30 meatballs. Okay, so now we finished portioning the meatballs. Again, I portioned them into tablespoons, cut them in half, and rolled them into these small meatballs. So what we got to do is we're going to preheat 3 tablespoons of olive oil. We want to do that over medium-high heat, and we really want to let this heat up a bit, because what we're going to do is we're just going to saute these meatballs, and we're going to caramelize them. So once we put them in, we're going to put them in, and then we're not going to touch them. If you start like turning them too quickly, they'll start to fall apart. So sort of just let them get combined, let them just saute a bit, and then we'll start to push them around. We want to get them a nice caramelization, and then we're going to go ahead and remove these, and in the same pot, we're going to continue to make the soup, and then we'll add these back in later. So I'm not going to touch these yet. I want to really give them a chance to caramelize a bit on one side. It also makes the meatball get a little firm, and then we're going to go ahead and stir it up. Let's see, we want them to be able to move easily. Now I sprayed this first. I just used some spray. I find that it makes sure that they're not going to stick, because when they stick, it's really a problem. They start to fall apart very easily. Look at that. That's what we want. We want them just to be able to move nice and easy. We can push them around. And I'm just going to move them around because we want to evenly brown them on all sides. And once they're evenly browned, I'm just going to go ahead and remove these, and we'll start making the rest of the soup. The other thing I like about this soup is it's sort of like a one-pot deal. We're going to do the meatballs here, remove them, and then finish off the whole thing in this one pot. So it's not like we're having to use a lot of saute pans and a lot of pots and pans and stuff. So makes cleanup a lot easier. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and turn the fire off. We're going to remove these to the side, and we're going to continue to start to prepare the soup. Okay, so we've removed the meatballs. I'm just going to set these off to the side for now. So now we're going to add, same pan, same pot. I'm going to add a cup of diced onion. This is about a 1/4 inch. Dice is just yellow onion. And a half teaspoon of salt. Now remember, the whole recipe is on my website, cookingwithkamal.com. So if you don't get all these ingredients now, you can always go to the website for that. So we're just going to lightly saute these. This is on medium-high heat. And what I like about this is, look how, when the onions now, it loosens all the caramelization of the meatballs, and that's what we want. And look at that nice caramelized color there. That's all flavor, and that's going to really come through with the soup that we're making. So we just want to lightly saute this a bit, allowing the onions to get a little bit soft. They don't need to cook too long because we're going to actually be putting the broth here and the rice, and this whole thing's going to be cooking for about 15 minutes. So the onions will continue to cook. So, okay, so that's good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add, this is 6 cups of chicken broth. Now I make this chicken broth all the time when I'm making chicken. I just take it and I freeze it. What you do is I refrigerate it overnight, and then I remove the fat. So this is like a low sodium broth. You can buy it in the grocery store as well. You don't have to make it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we want to bring this to high because we want this to come to a boil. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Now, you know, sometimes when you open up a can of tomato paste, and like for this recipe, you only need 2 tablespoons, and you're like, well, what am I going to do with the rest of the tomato paste? So my mom, like a couple of years ago, we were cooking, and she says she freezes it all the time, and it's really a great idea, and that's what I do now. So what I do is I just empty the can into a plastic, like a saran wrap or any plastic wrap, and I roll it sort of like into a roll, and that way you freeze it. When you need it, I actually just cut off pieces. It's a great way to, like, you know, otherwise you put it in the fridge and you find it like a month later and it's just not usable anymore. So I think that's really a good suggestion on how to, you know, freeze tomato paste and use it later when you're, you know, making something like this. Now we want this to come to a boil, then we're going to add the rice, bring it back to a boil, and then we're going to let it cook for about 15 minutes. Okay, so now it's come to a boil. We're going to go ahead and add half a cup of basmati rice. Okay, and now we're going to add the meatballs. Now you could also use brown rice, basmati rice, but of course that's going to take longer to cook. So if you do that, don't add the meatballs in until like, because that will probably take about 45-50 minutes. So you wouldn't want to add the meatballs like maybe 10 minutes at the last 10 minutes. We're just going to bring this back to a boil. I'm going to go ahead and cover it, reduce it to medium, like medium, low, and let it cook for 15 minutes. And then we're going to go ahead and finish this off. Okay, so it's been 15 minutes. The rice is cooked. It smells beautiful. Okay, so now we're just going to finish this off. We're going to add a cup of diced tomato. Now we need to peel this tomato before we dice it. These are about 1/2 inch cubes. So to peel it, just boil water, dip your tomato in there for like 30 seconds or a minute, and then bring it out and you can take the peel off very easily. So I'm just going to put, this is a cup of tomato. Okay. 2 tablespoons of coarsely chopped parsley. I use the Italian parsley. And 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice. We're going to go ahead and just bring this to high for just a minute. You want to let it boil for about a minute just so that these ingredients really cook a bit. And then we're done. That's it. We have keema soup, and what we'll do is we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how I like to put it. If I put it in single bowls, this will give you about 4 servings. So if you put it in single bowls, this is going to how you do it. Otherwise, you can just put it in one large bowl and decorate it the same way, sort of garnish it this way. Okay, it's come to a boil now. So we're just going to let it boil for about 10-20 more seconds, and we're going to go ahead and show you how to garnish this in a bowl. Beautiful. Okay. So I'm just gonna get that. And that's why I like that. I don't like to put too much tomato paste because you don't want it to be like a thick, heavy soup. You just want it to have a light broth, and you want to get. Now, depending on how many portions, you can portion this. These are 4 hearty portions. You can do less, it's really up to you. Look at that. I think I'll just do like that because I usually do this as a starter to, if we're doing a plated dinner. It's very pretty. People love it. This is the way I would serve it in wintertime. And then of course in the summer, I would just let the soup come to room temperature. I'd go ahead and serve it that way. This is lebni. This is strained yogurt. You could use sour cream if you can't get lebni, but I just love the flavor of this. It's a little tart. I'll have to put just a little dollop of that. And then just like to take a couple of pieces of parsley. I like to keep it really simple. And then serve it just like that. Keema soup. I hope you'll enjoy this recipe and all the recipes on my website, cookingwithkamal.com, as well as the recipes in my cookbook, Classic Lebanese Cuisine. My cookbook has full color photos of each recipe with easy to follow step-by-step directions. You can purchase my book at all major bookstores in the United States, Amazon.com, international online book venues, and signed copies from my online store, shopkamal.com. A signed copy of the book that also comes with a DVD with 41 tutorials such as opening kibbe, rolling dough, and even the best way to cut an onion. For your convenience, we also carry specialty ingredients and equipment at shopkamal.com. Until next time, happy cooking, sahtain, double health.